Good morning. My name is Ryan Vandenbrink. I'm the Assistant Director of Homeowner Assistance Programs for Oregon Housing. I'm here to help answer your program questions today. If you have any relevant to the HAF request for applications, which is the topic we're going to cover today. Is agency request for application 7091 available on our procurement website. And if you want, you can follow along with that as we go. Jessica will be talking more about that. So I'm going to introduce the other panelists or co-hosts today. Jessica Nelson is our single point of contact for the RFA. She is a team lead and agency procurement and contract analyst. Fernando Velez is the Homeowner Assistance Fund Program Outreach Coordinator. He is familiar to many of you because of his significant and experience and knowledge in this space. So I just want to say welcome, and I hope that we're able to answer your questions. A lot of the bulk of this presentation is a review of the program, the purpose of the Homeowner Assistance Fund, Oregon's program terms and requirements. Then we talk about the RFA directly, and then we've left a lot of time for questions if you have any. Jessica, did you want to make the technical announcements, or would you like me to go ahead and do that too? And Jessica, you're on mute.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So welcome everyone. Nice to have you on the webinar with us today. We do have to have participants on mute just so we don't hear the echoing of people joining the calls at different times or departing at different times. But we can use the chat function today to communicate between each other. And just a friendly reminder that statements made at the pre-application conference are not binding upon OHCS. So potential applicants may be asked to submit your questions in writing to the OHCS inbox at a later time, but we'll try our best today to answer your questions informally through our open form through the chat. And when you do apply or request, put your question in the chat, you'll have an option to select either sending it to the panelists or sending it to everyone. So if you could please just select to send it to everyone, that way we can make sure we're not getting duplicate questions and that everyone can see what you're asking, and we'll try to respond to as many as we can today. So thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. I am going to share my screen to talk a little bit about the HAF program. Jessica or Fernando, can you see that as the presentation PowerPoint?
I can, thank you.
Great, thanks. So as an introduction, because not everybody may be familiar with the Homeowner Assistance Fund program, it is a federally funded program through the American Rescue Plan Act last year, and it is rolled out in Oregon. We've received about $90 million to assist homeowners who are at risk of foreclosure or displacement due to the pandemic. We are opening in a phased approach, initially focusing on homeowners who are the most at risk of foreclosure or displacement. So right now we're taking a very limited number of applications, trying to focus mostly on those most at risk. We're currently in phase 2, and I will get into the phases a bit more as we go along in the presentation. In the early phases, in most cases, we are requesting that homeowners obtain an application or apply to the HAF program after they've received foreclosure avoidance counseling. This is because, as we'll get into a little later, there are, depending on the homeowner's type of loan and the homeowner's personal financial situation, a variety of different options that may be available to the homeowner. HAF is not the only option, and HAF may not be the best option for every homeowner. So in accepting HAF to reinstate a loan, for example, they may be precluding themselves from taking a better option because they would then be reinstated and not eligible for the servicer option. So we are trying to route or give most homeowners the benefit of foreclosure avoidance counseling as a way of getting priority phase 1 or phase 2 eligibility. As part of the program, OHCS will be making payments directly to the housing entity, not to the homeowner. Assistance will be in the form of a forgivable loan that's forgiven after 5 years, and it's recorded as a mortgage lien on the property. Homeowners must meet congressional income limits, which we have a form available that is a guide for each homeowner based on county and household size. The overall program cap, if a homeowner is eligible for both types of assistance we're providing, is $60,000 per household. The $90 million is all that we have to work with. So it is a limited program. It's a temporary program, an emergency response program. So it's another reason that we're asking homeowners to evaluate all of their options, because we're trying to use the Homeowner Assistance Fund in Oregon and per Treasury guidance as a safety net for homeowners who do not have the same options or as good of options as some other homeowners. With our program, we're operating 2 pathways for HAF assistance. The reinstatement program is called Past Due Payment Relief, and it is up to $50,000 for eligible housing costs. Homeowners must be at or below 150% of the median income or area median income, or 100% of the US median income. And that is the maximum income limit that we can do under the Treasury guidance. So for this program, we're doing the maximum allowed. For the ongoing payment relief program, it's targeted toward homeowners who have an ongoing hardship. And if you have an ongoing hardship, you may receive up to 12 months of payment assistance, or $15,000 per household. We are also allowing homeowners who may not have a hardship, but may need additional help with recovering from the pandemic, or are in a tough situation based on their housing cost ratio, up to 3 months of payment assistance, or $3,750. For the ongoing payment relief program, either track, it is a lower income limit of 100% of the area median income, or 100% of the median income for the US. As mentioned, we'll be covering amounts due that have accrued under forbearance plans that are related to traditional or forward mortgages, reverse mortgages, loans secured by manufactured homes called chattel loans, land sale contracts. We'll be covering past due property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA dues. And then the other thing is, this is generally a repeat of a prior slide. The stability track, what we're pegging that to an additional requirement of the housing cost ratio of 43% or more, which we generally consider that to be a housing cost burden, a high housing cost burden on homeowners. So that is the intention of the stability track, is to help those homeowners with 3 months of payments so that they might rebuild their savings that they've used on their mortgage or other costs, or to help them pay down other debt during those 3 months. We have general eligibility requirements. Most of these come from the U.S. Treasury provisions. That a homeowner has to live at the property as their primary residence. They have to be a borrower on the mortgage or an owner of the property, or both in most cases. They have to have experienced a pandemic-related financial hardship after the date January 21, 2020. Financial hardship due to the pandemic can either be an increase in living expenses related to the pandemic, or a loss of income related to the pandemic. And then we've gone over the income limits. Information that we need for homeowners to apply for the program: a social security number, or an ITIN, an individual taxpayer identification number. The most recent mortgage statement for all mortgages on the property tax statement, any utility bill, a recent utility bill to show residency, any HOA or condo association dues statement or amount due, a hardship declaration which ties the application to the pandemic hardship requirements is on the application and would be filled out as part of the application. A third-party authorization form that allows us to speak about the homeowner's accounts to the mortgage servicer, the county, the HOA, or any other entity that would be applicable. And then if we do have homeowners that are trying to apply in phase 1 or phase 2, the early, very limited phases for most at-risk homeowners, we're requesting either documentation of the risk that they're facing of foreclosure, or a referral or an application submitted by an intake partner or housing counselor. And then in certain situations, there will be additional documentation to explain things that are uncertain as part of the application, like name changes. We are open in phase 2 currently. This is our phased opening process. We hopefully will open phase 3 in April 2022 and phase 4 later this year. In the first 2 phases, which are open, we're referring homeowners to homeownership centers so they can benefit from foreclosure avoidance counseling. If a counselor determines that a homeowner is eligible and that HAF is the best option for them or the only option for them, they can refer the homeowner to HAF or help the homeowner apply for the HAF program. In some situations, we make an exception to the foreclosure avoidance counseling requirement. And so if a homeowner is identified as being at high risk and they have documentation of that risk, they can apply directly by providing that documentation to the agency. And so these are samples of what we consider a high risk situation, where there might be, for instance, an active foreclosure with sale date, or judicial foreclosure, a chattel loan or a land sale contract at risk of foreclosure, post-foreclosure tax lien redemption period. And then we are working toward getting through some of these applications and opening to wider phases as we move forward. So there are, as we recognize, gray areas where a homeowner may not have documentation that demonstrates a higher risk of foreclosure or displacement, but they may still be at a higher risk, or they may have no other options besides the HAF program. That is why we're asking homeowners to go through counseling, foreclosure avoidance counseling, to learn about their loss mitigation options. So if they have no other loss mitigation options, we're not able to obtain a workable loss mitigation alternative, or in any of these other sort of gray areas or high risk situations where they have talked to a counselor, the counselor can refer the homeowner to HAF or another intake partner, or an intake partner under the RFA can receive compensation for helping the homeowner with the application. As we move into phase 3, we'll be opening it more broadly to a higher volume. And we'll still be serving people that are in elevated risk of foreclosure, including home loans where HUD is the named beneficiary. This is a very rare situation, but it does occur, so we put it in phase 3. But the focus of phase 3 is more of an equitable one. So it includes homeowners who are traditionally underserved in the housing or mortgage markets, who are less able to recover from financial hardship related to the pandemic, and some homeowners who need more assistance with the HAF application. It includes elderly, people with disabilities, limited English proficiency, recovering from displacement due to natural disaster or property damage. And then in phase 4, we'll be opening to everybody in the program. So this is, I'm going to pause before we go too much further through this part. And just mention that this slide presentation will be posted on the RFA website for the HAF RFA 7091. We have also gathered a list of resources that we have shared and will be sharing and posting as part of this presentation for instance, a link to the HAF website, updated application guide, pre-qualification questions, a document checklist with phase eligibility criteria in English and Spanish, program guidance for intake assistance, and social media tiles for people that are participating in the outreach and marketing portion of track 1 of the RFA. So as we gather more resources for both track 1 and track 2 of the RFA, we will be posting those to the HAF website, but with regard to this presentation, that will also be on the procurement website. So as we go through and refine our process for bringing in applications from homeowners, we will be working on focusing homeowners to homeownership centers. So as a homeownership center, you'll be receiving calls from homeowners that ask about the HAF program because we're referring them to foreclosure avoidance counseling. We would like you to offer them foreclosure avoidance and default counseling so that you can assess their loss mitigation options. And if they have other loss mitigation options, we strongly encourage them to take those loss mitigation options, but it's not required for them to apply for HAF. Homeowners with workable service or loss mitigation options are not considered by the agency to be at a high risk of foreclosure, and so they're not eligible for the first or early phases of HAF, even if the homeowner has declined the servicer option. If they have no other options, HAF will serve as a program of last resort or safety net for the homeowner. And in this case, if your organization is participating as an intake partner, which is track 2 of the RFA, you will go through this process of obtaining an application link and third-party authorization for us. You'll collect the required documents for the homeowner, and they can apply in the current phase of opening. And then you'll be submitting the application on behalf of the homeowner online through our secure application portal. You have the opportunity to provide your information so that you also receive updates on the applicant's progress through the application process and underwriting. And that way it'll be easier to compensate you under the RFA as well. If your organization is not participating in the intake assistance grant track 2, but you are providing counseling, we are trying to arrange for a soft handoff of the homeowner either to the agency by referral to the intake email, or you can refer the homeowner to a different intake partner to provide application assistance to the homeowner. And then we recognize that some homeowners will be requesting the application link, and that there are situations where you're not under an obligation to withhold the application link from them, even if they might not be in the correct phase. So while we request that you provide that link only after evaluating their loss mitigation options and phase eligibility, we recognize that some homeowners will be sending in information. If they have inquiries, they can email us at this homeowner email account. We will be following up with counselors or intake partners about applications that do not appear to be in the correct phase in case we're missing something. And if an application is submitted in the incorrect phase, we will be withdrawing that application to be resubmitted later. I am going to quickly go over, because I think I might be past time, a little bit about the different tracks and how that works in here. So this is track 1 of the HAF RFA. And the purpose behind this track is to provide community-based or population-targeted outreach and marketing. So we want people in your community to be able to learn about the HAF program and find resources on it, and then find out ways to connect with homeownership centers, intake partners, or the agency to make sure that people are obtaining information they need. We're providing funds so that people can do that in a variety of different ways, including radio, TV, or print advertising, video content, for example, on social media or your website, telephone or email campaigns, print materials, social media or digital content, in-person or virtual outreach clinics, because we recognize that a lot of organizations are still mostly virtual. So we're providing the opportunity to do either an outreach or sign-up clinic for homeowners that are in the correct phase. Track 2 switches over to the application intake assistance, and that is what we're compensating participating organizations for, including submitting applications in the correct phase or helping a homeowner to submit an application in the correct phase. Ongoing quarterly income certification. So if homeowners are receiving ongoing payment assistance, we are going to require quarterly income certification or attestation that their hardship is continuing. There will be a signing ceremony, which is what we call the execution of loan documents to complete the funding. That would include aligning the homeowner in person or virtually, and if it's virtually, with a remote online notary. So there will be an education process for the homeowner to go through before they sign the documents, so they're aware of what they're signing when it's a mortgage on their property, and then coordinating the signing itself. We'll be compensating for notary activities, whether that's in-person, mobile, or remote online notarization. And because we recognize that there are not a lot of remote online notaries that are certified in Oregon, we are compensating for your certification of up to 2 new remote online notaries for your organization. And that is all that I have to share. Jessica?
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
I will briefly walk through the RFA. I'll share my screen in just a second and we'll dive into finding the RFA on the procurement website. I'll go through a few links that we have available there that are live, meaning that we are, as we update the information on those links, you can see the most recent update. And then I'll just pause a few minutes and wait for any procurement questions that you might have, and then we'll turn it over to Fernando. So just bear with me for a second while I share my screen. And I did want to note that we do have, since we are doing this over a virtual world, you know, there may be a few technical glitches. Some of us might drop off. So if that happens, we'll reconnect as quickly as possible. Understand if that happens to you as well. Please note that there's a few different options in the Zoom instructions that you can join back through a call-in number if that happens. So that's available to the group. Also, we are recording and we'll post this recording to our website later this month. So, can we share your presentation, Ryan, on our website as well? Yes, we can. So that will be available on the website as well. Okay. So, okay. I have a lot of screens open, so just one second. And there we go. Okay, so in the agenda, at the very bottom, can everybody see the website? Okay, okay, perfect. You'll find a direct link to the procurement website, and this is off of our OHCS main page. If you were coming just to the OHCS website, you would get this main resource page. And navigating to procurement, we're just at the very top ribbon here. And then scrolling down, you'll find procurement opportunities. And that's where you can view the most recent procurement opportunities from our agency. And so the direct link I gave you will take you to this RFA. So as you can see, the RFA has several links underneath it. This opportunity was posted in October, and it's active until the end of March. This application process is ongoing, meaning that we're accepting applications right now. So if you would like to apply for this funding opportunity, please go ahead and submit your application to the OHCS inbox. It's the email address on the first page of the RFA, and we will put your application in process for review. We are currently awarding to organizations right now for this funding opportunity, and we're reviewing them in batches. Oops, yeah, let's see. Additional information on this RFA, you can click at the very bottom to see status of available counties. You can click to see response to questions that we've already received and posted an answer to, and Fernando will go through that in more detail. And you can also see our notice of intent to award. So we've awarded to 4 organizations so far, and we have 1 pending application that we're processing right now. So as we continue to award new application or new organization, awards, you can click back up. So going into the RFA, let me do, can you see the RFA application, or do I need to do a new share? You see it?
You may need to do a new share.
New share, okay. Thank you. Okay. You see it now? Okay, great. So this is a copy of the RFA. As Ryan mentioned, we have we've issued 3 different addendums out there. So for various things. And I've made a note through this application where we've updated information. So addendum number 1 increases the amount of funding available from 300,000 to 900,000. An applicant can select track 1 or track 2 when completing its application. In addendum 2, OHCS added the signing ceremony to track 2. So if you wish to apply for track 2, you can go ahead and use that updated attachment A form when you're submitting your application. The RFA goes into more detail about information about each track. And you can submit one application for track 1 or 2, or if you'd like to submit an application for a combination of both tracks, you can do that through just one application. OHCS will be awarding multiple grant agreements to provide statewide coverage through eligible organizations for homeowners that may not otherwise hear about the RFA programs, and that may be traditionally underserved populations that may need assistance submitting their applications. The initial term of the agreements are anticipated to be about 2 years, with an option to renew up to 5 years. Our schedule for the upcoming dates, we have a closing period for questions would be 1 week before the closing date. So the end of March, you can keep submitting your questions to the ohcs.contracts email inbox. So Ryan shared some email inboxes earlier, and that is for the program and really about submitting your application for the technical part of the HAF program. But any questions that you have about the actual RFA evaluations and procurement process, you'll want to make sure you're using the OHCS.contracts inbox. And I will be your single point of contact through that inbox, and I'll make sure your questions get routed to the right person before we respond. Those will all get published onto the same procurement website. And in section 2.2, we have several definitions in there. Main ones to look for are the eligible organizations who can apply. Whether your organization may be, can qualify for a preference. So we have a few different preferences available. There's a rural organization, serving socially disadvantaged individuals, and also being certified as a culturally specific organization. You can still get grant funding if your organization doesn't have all of those preference points, but they are available. Under section 2.3, it lists the different grant activities for both tracks. And in section 2.5, we outlined the different activities that are available and also break down the rates. So addendum number 1 gives an updated rate table and a little bit more information about what some of these activities include. So please just go ahead and make sure you take a look at that updated information to see what's been added. When you submit attachment A, it will have a checkbox. So if you're interested in doing video content, you can mark that that's something that you'd like to provide. And so we'll know that when you're submitting your application, that that's the funding that your organization is also applying for, and which ones that you're not interested in applying for. The reporting section of this RFA has been updated in addendum 1. We are giving advanced funding for track 2 to help with intake applications up to a certain amount, and that was added through this addendum? So minimum qualifications to be able to apply for this funding, an organization needs to be able to meet the eligible organization definition requirement, be able to submit the information requested in attachment A, that corresponds with the grant activities, and then to complete the additional information requested in the application. So there's additional award documentation that's needed. And so what we ask for that comes in, attachment A and the narrative to the response to questions and the evaluation criteria that we'll go through. The disclosure exemption, if you'd like to indicate that anything in your application is exempt from disclosure or trade secret, this is an optional form. If you'd like to use it, you can go ahead and fill it out. And we'll just ask that you please make sure that you indicate which area you would like to exempt and why when you're submitting this form. And then the response to the evaluation questions. And if you are a culturally specific organization, please include attachment 1. It's not required. Some organizations have already gone through the certification process with OHCS. If you have done that, there is a box on the second page of that form where you can check that you've already received certification, and you just need to check that and sign it, submit that with your application, and we have a copy of those organizations on file here. Once you're ready to submit your application, you'll just email it to this inbox here referencing the RFA number. Applications are limited to 1 per applicant or per organization. And we do have a page limit requirement with the following exclusions. Any updates to the RFA will be posted on the OHCS website that I showed you. And I'm just taking you through some highlights, but please take a look at the RFA in its entirety when you have time. So we have a minimum evaluation score of 25 to be eligible for an award. There's an additional breakdown of how the agency will determine awards if we get so many applications at once. So responding to the evaluation criteria, if you are applying for both track 1 and track 2, we ask that you provide responses related to each track in the evaluation criteria below. So just go ahead and provide both responses where it's applicable. Each section will have a pass-fail. We'll ask you to talk about your experience related to the track or the tracks, service capacity, targeted organization for a rural preference, which was further clarified in Addendum 1. Targeted organization for culturally specific, that's that attachment 1, is another preference point. And then how you'll be serving the socially disadvantaged individuals for another 20 preference points. Additional questions for track 1 only, number 8. So if you're applying for track 1 or track 2, just kind of follow through and apply a response to the questions that pertain to the track or tracks that you're applying for. So additional questions for track 2 only are listed below. So a total of 13 questions max if you're applying for both tracks. 4.9 talks about our selection process. Awards will be made on a first come, first served basis based on the application date, subject to the available funding. in accordance with the RFA and applicable statutes and rules. Preference will be given to cover geographic locations statewide, rural communities, culturally specific organizations, and those serving socially disadvantaged individuals, and applicants that serve larger communities or networks. Agency reserves the right at sole discretion to stop accepting applications for a geographic area that has the full capacity of services. So we have a link here that's underneath that RFA that gives an update of what geographic areas that are open, listed by county. And currently we have all geographic areas that are still open for applications. Under section 5.3, you can see what we'll expect to confirm at time of award. We'll be asking for your insurance, for your W-9 if you are not already in our system, that you have an active business registry as it's applicable to your organization, and that you sign a state-approved grant agreement with us. And then for your use, there is a checklist available on the website that can help you complete your application. So you can use that as a guide when going through what you need to respond. Let's see. Take a look at the application attachment A. Okay, so here's attachment A. This is the one that has been updated. It has the 12/14 date. You'll see on the website the documents that have been replaced or updated. The old ones will be marked old. So you can use the most recent version. And this is a fillable form. So you can go ahead and complete your organization information, email address, the organization information. So whether your organization is a nonprofit, a local government, a housing authority, or another type that's listed under the eligible organization definition, which counties you intend to serve, and then the proposed list of services. So you don't have to offer services for everything, but which services you'd like to apply for funding. Signing ceremony is underlined here because it was added. And then just the signature and date with your application. Let's see. If you're interested in seeing the list of awards, you can go back to the website and click on the current list of awards. This is what we have currently posted. You can see which tracks they've been awarded to and when we've published it. So you continue to click on those links to view that information. We have the same link out there for response to questions and available counties. Are there any questions about the procurement process or any of the forms that you'd like me to go over in more detail? When an application does come in, we generally are taking about 2 to 4 weeks to review them in batches before the applicants notified if they have been awarded grant funding. And now we're working on the grant agreements for those awardees. On the procurement page, you can also sign up to receive future procurement opportunity notices that way. Question, am I eligible for phase 3 or should I wait until April 2020 to submit? Brian, is that a question you can answer?
Yes, Linda, so we can't give you certain advice without somebody looking at your entire situation, which is why we've been asking people to go to foreclosure avoidance counseling for that individual assessment and advice. But if you are eligible for phase 3, then you would wait until phase 3 opens, which is anticipated in April 2022. And sorry, that was unrelated to Jessica, what you were asking about.
That's okay, thank you. Okay, if there's not any procurement questions for now, I'll turn it over to Fernando, and you can always email me through the OHGS contracts inbox if you have any questions about submitting an application. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Jessica, if I can please ask you to share your screen where you have the list of documents briefly, so we can identify the document that I'm going to be discussing about. Excellent, thank you. So the document that I was asked to briefly talk about is the last to the one to the last, which is response to questions for the program. And so I have my own document that eventually I will share. But essentially what happens, these are the questions that were sent to us starting in November. And they are different in nature, meaning that some of them are related to the request for application. Some of those questions are related to the underwriter process and so on. But I want to focus a little bit on the some of the questions that we receive as it relates to the request for application. So if you can stop sharing your screen, thank you so much. Can everybody see my screen with the highlighted portion on it? Please say yes.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So this, I knew this is going to be a challenge, but I am going to identify the document. How about now? No?
Not yet.
Okay. So let me see. All right, I guess I'm gonna have to go back to the original version. Can everybody see this document?
Yes.
Okay,
I can see it now.
so I highlighted, I have a document that I highlight where I can identify what are the questions that we've been receiving more often than others. Some of the questions that we receive at least more than once, which appears to need some more clarification. But essentially what this document is an answer and clarification of some of the items that Ryan and Jessica already discussed about. So I'm going to scroll down to give you an idea about the questions that we have been receiving up to date. The last question being as recent as February 11th of this year, where we are offering a little bit of more clarification as it relates to the need of a organization interested in participating on this program, whether they have to be approved or not. But I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to show some of the questions that I felt that were relevant to the request for application. And that will be, for example, the number 5, whether the $60,000 max eligible organization for both tracks, if an organization decides to apply for both, meaning as Ryan did disclose earlier, the program allows for 2 tracks, track 1, which will be for outreach purposes, and the second one for assistance for intake applications. I'm going to ask Ryan to correct me if I'm wrong. And so that would, and obviously we have the question answered here, the date. And I want to go to another one that clearly needed some more clarification, that it has to do with rural definition. And again, I have my own document that it will help me to identify exactly which one is the question that I want to discuss about. But that particular question that we received as it relates to the rural qualification has been updated and clarified, because clearly that needs some additional clarification. So if there are any questions related to that particular component as it relates to rural location, please do send your questions via the link that is available in the application. I'm going to, again, this number 20, for example, appears to be one of the questions that has been asked more than once. Again, we are providing and offering a clarification about that. Here's the question about rural county. We have offered an additional clarification about this one. So I guess what I'm trying to encourage our potential applicants to look at this document, because it does not only offer additional clarification about the questions that we're receiving, but may also be useful for other potential applicants or those organizations that need some clarification. It's rather a short document, but we try to post here any question that is related to the program, again, as it relates to the request for application, and also some of those technical questions as it relates to the program itself. So this is the document that you may want to look at. Of course, you are always welcome to send us your questions. We try to ensure that the answers that we are posting here are accurate, and most importantly, that the person who is able to respond to the question is posted, so there will be no misunderstandings. So that is essentially my short version of this, and I was wondering if any has any questions. I'm not reading the chat box, so if Jessica or Ryan can read them as it relates to this particular component, I'll be happy to answer them if I can.
Thanks, Fernando. There was a question earlier about if the loan is recorded as a second lien. If the homeowner already has multiple liens, will OHCS, oh, I just lost the chat. OHCS, where did they go? If the homeowner already has multiple liens, will HAF take another position? I'm not sure if that's something we can answer today.
Generally, the way that works is that the HAF lien would be the most junior, because unless we're not intending to subordinate other senior liens to the HAF lien. So we would take a junior lien in most cases.
Thanks, Ryan. Let us know if there's a follow-up question to that. The question about my files listed on the website. Which file are we talking about? Is it the RFA document that I was going through? Yes, all of that information, all of those links are on the website. I was just pulling them up on my computer because my internet is really slow and I was worried everything's going to crash on us on this call. So you can click on it on through the website. Everything is there for you. We're welcome to call me too if we can find it together, but it's all listed under the RFA number for you. And then a follow-up question, does it mean it will be recorded in the court docs? I think you're on mute, Ryan.
Thanks. So the HAF mortgage lien will be recorded in the county title records. So not really the court documents, but yes, I think that's what your question was really getting at. So the county title records will have a recorded lien for HAF when we provide assistance. There will be additional education for the homeowner as part of that loan signing ceremony about what that means when you are executing loan documents that become a lien tied to your title on the property. For people that are participating in track 2 for the RFA, we will be providing resources on providing that information to homeowners. So it's clearly understood.
Thank you, Ryan. And we also have Cassandra Cooper. She is another OHCS team member, and she's graciously helping us answer questions through the chat as well. So thanks, Cassandra. Follow-up question. Will both tracks be recorded as a junior lien?
Yes, so any assistance through the HAF for a homeowner will be recorded on the homeowner's title records.
A new question is, my loan is through USDA RD home loans. Will they be participating in this program?
That is a good question, Linda. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I will try to look that up if we want to continue answering other questions in the meantime.
Do we have other questions? And we'll be following up with the Q&A from the chat and our Brian's responses. We'll be summarizing all of that in the response to questions link that Fernando shared earlier. Okay.
And Linda, I do not show that USDA is currently enrolled in our Oregon HAF program. It says that we have sent them an enrollment packet. So it doesn't mean that they're not participating. It just means that they haven't enrolled yet. So what we're doing when homeowners apply and the servicer is not enrolled is we're sending the homeowner a note that their servicer is not currently enrolled, and we also reach out to that servicer again to try and follow up on the process. And yes, homeowners or housing counselors could reach out to servicers to encourage them to enroll as well.
We received another question. Where is a list of other organizations that can help before getting HAF loan? And is that required before applying for phase 3?
Sorry, I missed the question.
It's in the Q&A chat. It says, where is the list of other organizations that can help before getting a HAF loan? And is that required before applying for phase 3?
So we are requiring it on phase 1 and phase 2 that you would go through foreclosure avoidance counseling with a homeownership center in Oregon, which is our designated housing counselors for the agency. They can provide free foreclosure avoidance counseling to homeowners. We, at this point, do not anticipate requiring foreclosure avoidance counseling before a phase 3 application. That is not a final decision. So I wouldn't hold us to that, but that is the direction we're leaning. Again, we encourage all homeowners to obtain free foreclosure avoidance counseling because that is an individual assessment of your loan and your situation. And we do believe that a lot of homeowners will have better options than HAF over the long term. And that by participating in HAF without knowing what those options are, even if you're in a later phase, you could preclude yourself from getting a better option. And I will get a link to the homeownership centers and put that in the chat.
And then there was a question, any payment obligations for track 1 grantees or both tracks are grants, question mark? I'm not sure if that was answered earlier.
What was the? So if you're talking about the assistance to homeowners and not the RFA tracks, assistance to homeowners, neither are a grant. All of the assistance to homeowners through the Oregon HAF program are forgivable loans, which are forgiven over a 5-year period.
Ryan, do you think, or Jenny, did you mean that since track 1 is about outreach, are you required to have some sort of amount of success with homeowners receiving assistance from us? That's kind of how I read it.
Oh, okay. So track 1 for the RFA.
Mm-hmm.
So the RFA is grants to organizations that provide outreach and marketing. Track 2 is a grant that for organizations providing intake assistance. So for the purposes of the request for application for HAF, those are grants to participating organizations.
Are there any requirements, Ryan, to meet a specific metric or payments for homeowners?
Yes, and that is in Addendum 1 for the RFA 7091 on the website that Jessica was showing us. So if you click on Addendum 1, there's an updated list of eligible activities, sort of target markers for payment, and a lot more of that information available. And since I do have that pulled up, I can put that in.
I think this Q&A might need a little bit of clarification. Does my mortgage servicer have to be affiliated with something for phase 3? I don't understand that question, I guess. All of our servicers who are enrolled, we are not declining servicers at this time. So as long as they fill out the necessary paperwork, we're willing to work with them. If that helps answer that question.
Beth, let us know if there's a follow-up question to that. Thanks, Cassandra.
Ryan, is the website ready to go?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we have a new website just for HAF. That might be helpful to get to know more about the program.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Cassandra.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, please just go ahead and email those to the OHS contracts inbox if they come up later. And I'll put that email in the chat for you, and we'll hand that over to Ryan. He can talk to us a little bit about the technical assistance and some reporting updates for the grant agreement.
And if you have general questions, I can put that email in there. So the contracts email will only be for the RFA questions. So if you have program questions, like the one you had about the liens, I'll put the general email in there as well.
So in closing, for organizations that apply for the RFA or have received a notice of intent to award or are under a grant agreement, we will be providing a more in-depth training on the application process, supporting homeowners, underwriting, loan signing, and then follow-up. And that will be in a few weeks after we review some of these questions, other questions we've received. So we encourage people to submit their applications for the RFA sooner rather than later, so they're included in this initial in-depth training. We'll be focusing primarily on track 2 application intake assistance because it's more complex, but we'll also be touching on track 1 outreach marketing issues. Another thing that we are doing is making Fernando available in certain situations where we believe that he can provide technical assistance with either track 1 or track 2 of the RFA and support organizations in their efforts too. Jessica, was that everything that I think that was everything to cover.
Yes.
All right. And like Jessica said, we will be making this video recording available, as well as some of the resources like my program presentation on the procurement website for HAF RFA 7091. In addition, the Oregon homeownerassistance.org website will have information on the program side of things. If you are a homeowner listening to this, that would be a good place to go for resources on the program. Jessica, do you have anything else to add?
The only other thing that I would just like to share on the agenda we did include a link to Oregon Buys. I dropped it in the chat as well. Housing posts most of our opportunities on the procurement website, but we will be transitioning to Oregon Buys for some of our opportunities. So if you haven't already registered in Oregon Buys, please make sure that your organization is registered. It's a free account, and you'll receive notices for new opportunities, not just with housing, but other state agencies. So I've shared that in there. If you have questions about it, you can also email me at that OHCS inbox, but just wanted to make sure that you have that available. So thanks everyone for coming, and let us know if there's questions that come up.
Yeah, thank you.